Hello, good morning and welcome to NewsX. We're live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125 across all our social media handles. We are Joy News on TV. Coming up within the next 60 minutes, new audit report shows the electricity company of Ghana under-declared revenue to the cash waterfall mechanism by more than 1 billion cedis. We have details as the audit report reveals ECG is operating 84 bank accounts across 20 banks, despite the IMF conditionality that the power distributor must operate a single bank account. Also coming up, Ghana Water Company Limited working to alleviate the plight of residents of Ho who have been without water for a while. We'll engage them this morning on NewsDesk. And later in the bulletin, minority in Parliament accuses the chairman of the Appointments Committee of high-handedness and partisanship. We'll hear from them in the bulletin. My name is Faustina Safo. We have details of that plus business updates here on NewsDesk. It's a good time to take a seat and please be my guest. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Thanks for choosing us. Now, a new audit into the operations of the electricity company of Ghana shows that ECG under-declared revenue to the cash waterfall mechanism by more than 1 billion Ghana cedis. The cash waterfall mechanism was implemented in April 2020 as part of the energy sector recovery program to ensure fairness and transparency in distributing energy revenues among electricity distribution companies. Well, according to an audit conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers, ECG also operates more than 80 bank accounts, despite an IMF conditionality that it should operate a single account. Well, thankfully, Kweku Asante joins me in the studio with details of that audit report. Thank you so much, Kweku. Let's look at some of the key findings.
So you look at the PricewaterhouseCoopers, they did this audit for the last quarter, and this covers just the last quarter of 2024.
Okay.
And it says that the Electricity Company of Ghana under-declared revenues to the cash waterfall mechanism by 1.14 billion cedis when compared to ECG's bank accounts. That is the amount of money the ECG has been able to collect throughout all its bank accounts put together. They did not declare 1.14 billion Ghana cedis. And like you said, a cash waterfall mechanism is a pool where these revenues are supposed to be lodged into, so that independent power producers and all other players in the value chain will be paid their due. And so that is the amount of money that this audit report says ECG has under-declared. And again, even with the under-declared revenue to the cash waterfall mechanism, we know that ECG still underpaid the sector players based on their allocations in the cash waterfall mechanism. And over the 3-month period of the last quarter of 2024, it underpaid them by 609 million Ghana cedis. So even with the amount of money that the ECG itself actually declared and put them in the cash waterfall mechanism, it underpaid the public, the sectors who are in the chain, the IPPs and all that. And we know that in particular, between last year and the early this year, the IPPs did make a lot of noise about debt owed them by the ECG and other persons. And so for which reason some of them, including Sunana Sogli, actually withdrew their services up until early this year when some negotiations got them back on stream. So they did not pay up by almost 610 million Ghana cedis and all that. So that is the specifics when it comes to the matters having to do with the cash waterfall mechanism.
Now, there are other concerns that they raise as well with ECG operating 18 different bank accounts. And this is not the first time this has come up. I recall PURC raised the same concern. ECG didn't listen?
Yes, if you look at this audit report again, put together by PricewaterhouseCoopers, it again says that the Electricity Company of Ghana was directed to operate a single bank account, of course, by the IMF as a conditionality for accessing those funds. And ECG was asked to do so. PURC again ordered it to do so. But if you look at the bank account for all its revenue collections and disbursements, ECG is operating 84 different bank accounts across 20 banks. And so there's the Electricity Company of Ghana collecting a lot of money through different bank accounts. And the concern for power sector players is that it makes it difficult to track exactly how much the ECG is collecting, where exactly it is putting those money. But if you are collecting all monies and putting them in a single bank account, then it makes it very difficult for auditors and all other persons in the sector to get to know what exactly you are doing with that fund. But ECG hasn't listened to that. They haven't complied again with this IMF conditionality to operate a single bank account for all revenue, collections and disbursements, and is currently operating 84 different bank accounts across 20 banks.
And this is worrying.
Yeah.
Looking forward, what are they recommending?
So PricewaterhouseCoopers has made a lot of recommendations together with ECG to streamline this. But there's also this finding about a private vendor taxed with collections on behalf of ECG. They got paid 47.5 million Ghana cedis in commissions over 3 months, and that this private vendor got paid even before the power suppliers, as soon as Asogli and others got paid. And again, ECG over 2 months made deductions from the revenue it collected and declared worth 303 million Ghana cedi. They call this tax offsets, but auditors say they couldn't provide any evidence or rationale to the auditors with regards to this. And so the PwC is recommending that some of these measures be streamlined because it is seen as part of the reason why the state power distribution company is struggling. It is unable to pay the people who supply it electricity for them to obviously supply to the Ghanaian people, and it's worsening the situation in the power sector. And so the recommendation is that ECG's operation be streamlined, some of these matters be looked at so that there can be reforms.
Thank you, Kwekwa Asante. And we'll be expanding this conversation at 12 p.m. when we bring you Joy News today, and also on Joy 99.7 FM when we bring you the midday news, getting reaction from key sector players. But away from that, let's bring you an update on the senior high school food situation. We know that President John Dramani Mahama on Sunday directed the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, to facilitate the immediate distribution of food supplies stored in warehouses in Tema to senior high schools nationwide. Well, this move was to alleviate the ongoing food shortage affecting schools across the country. Now, let me bring in Primus Barrow, who speaks for the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools. Charles, thank you so much for your time here on NewsDesk. Now, we received assurances when we spoke to key players in the educational sector that the items would be reaching schools within 48 hours. Now, I wanted to find out from you, so far, all your members, have they received the items yet?
So, good morning, and thank you for having us. And I'm talking about Charles, represented by me here. Well, unfortunately, I don't know exactly when you spoke and the 48-hour deadline was given or timeline was given.
Well, we spoke to Clementa Park on Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM, and that was 2 days back. And when we spoke to him, he gave assurance that within 24 to 48 hours, the items will be reaching the schools.
All right, so that's heartwarming. Yeah, we indeed had an engagement with the government side. That was led by the Chief of Staff himself and other high-profile government representatives. As at that meeting, and that was on Tuesday, at the end of it, there was subsequently another meeting by the government side, and a few minutes after that, and this I'm talking about a span of 2 hours, they gathered our representatives again. And that meeting, the second meeting was represented, Charles was represented by the president and the treasurer. Now, beyond that meeting, some agreements were made, and those were the agreements that were forwarded to the president, and those agreements bordered on the time, the kind of food that should be sent to schools. Yes, the 48 hours, to answer your question straight away, for us as this morning, I've not received any official report from any region regarding the reception, receipt of these food items. But at that meeting, with the agreement, or not the agreement, the anticipation was that, like Honorable Apatu, was that by close of day today, hopefully, we shall receive these food items. I've not had any official report from any region whether these food items have arrived or not.
I'm quite interested in the agreement you reached, and you say that you agreed on the kind of food that should be served to the pupils. Can you expatiate on that?
Yeah, I'm just talking about the arrangements. Let me tell you, it's in respect of the arrangement of how food will get to the schools. That's what I'm actually referring to. And I'm saying that in the context of the announcement that was made, you know, you heard the President of the Republic announcing, even before this meeting, that there were some food items that were to be dispatched from a warehouse, you know, from Tema to deal with the issue. At the meeting, it was revealed that I'm not sure all the food items were there. I think from our information, there were basically two main food items there that were available as at the time we're talking. So they saw the need, the Chief of Staff and subsequently the President saw the need to add all the other, you know, in the school we have 18 food items. So there was a need to make available, if not all, but most of these food items to the school. So some measures were put in place there and then, in addition to the earlier announcement to send these food items to the school. I think that is why, that's what Honorable Park might have talked about the 48, deadline.
But as we speak, I just want clarity. As we speak right now, you haven't received any report from your
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I've not received any official report from any region. Yes,
okay.
Please.
Thank you so much, Primus Barrow. He speaks for Charles. Now, away from that, let's draw your attention to other stories, and we take you to the Volta region, where the Ghana Water Company Limited said it is working to restore supply of water to parts of Ho, which have been without water for a while now. Now, this follows a plea by residents of Ho asking the Ghana Water Company Limited to immediately fix a faulty pump in the area. We'll hear from the Ghana Water Company shortly, but first, here's a report by Fred Kwame Asari, better painting the picture of what is happening at Ho.
Vivian Afolepe sets out in search of water in the Kokompe suburb of Ho, where the Ghana Water Limited supplies water once a week. She depends on water from a nearby well for domestic use. Her situation became dire when the Ghana Water Limited experienced a faulty pump at Kpeve in the first week of January, hence being unable to supply water to parts of the Ho West District and the Ho municipality of the Volta region. Most residents were therefore compelled to depend on borehole owners to get the essential commodity for use at home and other places. To salvage the situation, the Christ Resurrection Power Chapel International decided to provide water to members for free and non-members at a token to keep the pumps on and maintain the facility.
Church members, when they come, is free. But if you're not a church member, you pay a token for electricity. But if you're a church member, when you come, it's free. So she even told me she saw plenty gallons from church members, and they said they should take it free. Yes, because you are working to make their lives better.
Due to the high water demand, some people took advantage of the situation and quickly started water delivery services. Though it appears a bumper season for those engaged in sales of water, they lamented the pressure on their machines.
Because I'm going to pure water away, but with this, I can't use it for pure water. So normally, I am not a JM cocoa in it. But what I was told like pure water.
Food vendors have also been hit hard by the inability of the utility service provider to supply water to clients.
Mizana chipa gaka eti ho tuna mile nkeke kumala ena be mile fukpele te ho ECG afi ava kpochi ava danu evo tu ko mile nu dana ta eva wesi bebela mile fukpe blibo ta mi de kukuna tu ko no jagba no trasilo no wana ne cho nyakwe chinya onani.
It is unclear when repair works would be completed on the defective pump shaft at Peve intake of the headworks of the Ghana Water Limited. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Ho.
Let me take you to Ho now and bring in Fred Kwame Asari. Just give us updates on the exact situation there. Fred, what can you report this morning? Fred, you might have to unmute for me to hear you clearly. Yesterday, you reported that some individuals are already cashing in into the situation, but we've been hearing from the Ghana Water Company. They are quite optimistic that they'll fix the challenge. I just want you to give me updates. Have they been able to fix it?
Well, some areas have been restored, or supply has been restored in some areas, I should say. But then this whole thing started in the first week of January, where the Ghana Water Limited reported that they were experiencing some breakdown of pumps at their headworks in Peve. So some areas in the whole municipality, the whole West District, and then also some parts of the South Dine district, that is Peking, were experiencing shortfall in supply of water. They, after some time, or on the 6th of January, they announced that they have completed repair works and then supply was restored to some parts of the affected areas. But then on the 11th, they again reported that the pumps had again run faulty, so they had to work on it. But as we speak, they have not given us a feedback as to when they are done or they have completed repair works on the pumps and then restored supply to parts of to the affected areas. But then some information I am picking is that some parts of Ho have been receiving supply from the Ghana Water Limited. I have one colleague here who has been living in Ho for quite some time now, and they have some observations to make. Sorry, good morning and welcome to the morning. What can you say about this water situation?
Yeah, actually, the water situation is becoming a big issue. It's becoming a national security issue because many of the whole city residents cannot have water to do business or even use for their domestic houses for work. People don't have water to buy for almost sometimes 5 days, 6 days, and the result in buying water, which is very expensive and very, very giving a challenge to them. Yeah.
Now, you are leading an advocate on putting pressure on the Ghana Water Limited to ensure that they are able to feed or meet the demands of clients in their home municipality. Because previously we experienced a shortfall in supply where they had to ration water in areas. What do you have to say to that?
The ration of water, I think started some years back, and last year it was very serious. So we drew the attention of the Ghana Water Company. Unfortunately, Ghana Water Company, who should be coming out to be addressing the issue, giving sensitive information to the people as to what to do, were quiet. And later we've gotten information that some part of their machines are not working. I think about 3 systems has broken down. And so we don't want this situation where people will be in an unknown situation and they don't know what is happening. So we are thinking that Ghana Water should be coming out and giving information to the people as to what the people should do. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And this year, it became worse. And now water become very expensive in some part of it. Just 3 days, I think they restore water to some part of it, but just a small part of it. So still, major part of where especially workers are living like State Flat, Go Technical University area, they don't have water as we speak.
So that is the situation here in the Volta Regional Capital, who, as we reported, the Ghana Water Limited has restored supply to parts of Go, but then there is also an incident where they are rationing water. In some areas like Kokompe, for instance, they receive supply once in a week, which is not very good. So just like Harry said, residents are hoping that the Ghana Water Limited will up their game and then ensure that they meet the demands of clients in their affected areas.
Sorry for providing us that update all the way from the Volta region. Now, it's a good time to take you to Parliament because the minority is accusing the chairman of the Appointments Committee, Bernard Ahiafo, of gross partisanship and high-handedness. Now, it will be recalled that on Monday, the minority and its leader, Alexander Fayomake, clashed several times with the chairman of the majority of the committee, as well as the majority on the committee over the modalities for the vetting. Now, while the minority says the chairman of the committee is an obstacle to the committee doing a good work, let's listen to Gideon Barker. We'll be back with more.
Let us not overlook the substance of these answers as we consider the path forward for our energy sector. In the case of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, the Honorable Dr. Dominic Ayine, it is clear he finds himself in a conflict of interest position. His law firm and he personally are representing companies that have filed arbitration claims in excess of over 500 million United States dollars. Can Ghanaians go to sleep believing that their money will be safe and that it will not be stolen through payment of dubious judgment debts, as we saw in the case of Wodiome? Ladies and gentlemen of the media, watch the space for GP, GC, and Cassius mining arbitration claims against the government of Ghana. In any serious country, we believe the Attorney General designate would not have accepted the appointment. Mr. Attorney General designate, why the public tribunal? What is our High Court not doing right, necessitating the creation of the public tribunal? In the last 8 years, through the District Assembly Common Fund, 110 new courts have been created. If it is not about more courts, if it is about more courts, like the NPP, the NDC should be more. In any event, the Chief Justice has the power to create more specialized courts, including specialized tribunal, specialized criminal high courts. There is therefore no need for the public tribunal, which is associated with killing.
Ready. Oh, that is Gideon Barker, just giving us an update on the concerns you're raising about the chairman of the Appointment Committee. Well, in the studio with me, I have Nanaije Boafoiwa. He is a lawyer, member of Parliament for Menchia South. I call him the giant slayer because you were able to kick out Napo from that constituency.
I didn't kick him out. I replaced him. I couldn't have kicked him out.
Okay, okay. So how does it feel, though, now that you are leading that constituency?
I think I'm humbled. You know, I'm standing on the shoulders of great men who have preceded me. If you know the history of that constituency, our first MP was Dr. Kwame Safuadu. And incidentally, or coincidentally, they are always known for championing a particular project whilst in government. Dr. Kwame Safuadu is known, or was known, for the Buzier's agricultural reforms. You know, he did so well in that regard. We all know that the Operation Feed Yourself of a Champion is a sequel to that, mostly adopted from Buzier's playbook. Subsequently, we saw Dr. Kwame Adokofo as defense minister, he was stellar. And then Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh as Education Minister, stellar performance, championing the free SHS at a point where most people thought it was impossible. He did it. And then I have also come in. So I'm standing on the shoulders of great men who have walked that path. It's a very interesting constituency. It's a constituency of royals. If you know the dynamics of that constituency, the first citizen of that constituency is Otumfuo Osei. Apart from him, if you know the history of Asante Newtown, where Menchia Palace is located, it was built after the Seganet-Worsley War that destroyed Edum, which was originally Kumasi. And when it was built, most of the houses there were built for chiefs who would be coming to Menchia for Otumfuo's programs, meetings. And so therefore, if the most of the houses there, they belong to chiefs, right? The surrounding towns or suburbs, they are all a spillover of Asante Newtown, right? And so it's the dynamics very traditional in nature, and so it takes a lot of tact, it takes a lot of humility, it takes a lot of wisdom to manage that constituency.
What are some of the key challenges you have seen in that constituency that you will be working on now that you have assumed office?
My primary objective in terms of infrastructure is to see the Crofro market built or completed. The Crofro market was commenced by President Kufuor. It's built up to lentil stage. In fact, it's been roofed. So it needs to be completed so that our mothers and our sisters who are engaged in various forms of trading in there will have a proper place to do their trade, so that the people in the constituency can find a place to go and ply their trade. And so in terms of infrastructure, that is my key focus, and I'll be lobbying this government for that. In terms of jobs, I want to focus on entrepreneurship training, which is something I've started already, and make sure that I boost education. Basically, these are my focus. And then in healthcare, see what I can also do for my people. I'm very poised to see that I continue the good works that have been started in the constituency. I can't trade it for anything.
Being a first-timer in Parliament, we are seeing quite an active minority raising concerns about everything happening, even just at the initial stages at the appointment committee. Let me get your initial thoughts about what's happening in Parliament and being a first-timer.
I wouldn't call it concern. The job of Parliament, among others, is oversight. And therefore, in performing that function, it is incumbent upon us to remind the government of the need to comply with due process. It is incumbent upon us to ensure that where something is not being done in a manner which is expected by society, we prompt our brothers in the majority. Because being in the majority can easily sway you into thinking that I'm in control, let me do whatever I want to do, right? It's a path that can easily push you into tyranny. It's a path that can easily cause you to forget that there's the need to comply with due process of law, that there's the need for you to think about people, the plight of the poor and the needy. And so we basically then become their conscience in the minority, like it has always happened. When the NDC was in the minority, they became the conscience of government, right? when MPP is also in the minority, the duty then falls on us. I think that when we therefore raise some of the issues we are raising, they are not just issues of concern, but it's just to prompt our brothers on the other side that, hey, we have forgotten to look at this side. It may be necessary for you to look at it, and let's move on. I don't think it's a bad thing.
You seem to raise concerns about everything, with specifically the vetting process. You raised concerns about every member before the committee. With Atu Forcing, you raised concerns about him lacking clarity of thoughts. With John Jinapo, you raised concerns about him as well, and also the Attorney General. Is this a subtle way of the minority just letting the world know they exist, knowing fully well that in Parliament currently, you are the micro side of the House?
Very respectfully, I'm not comfortable with the use of the word micro.
Okay.
I think that when you use it, it's your way of making us appreciate our plight. I don't think that Ghanaians will want to look at us as micro. I don't think that because of our numbers, Ghanaians would like to see us pushed into a corner. When you become micro, that is what it means. I think that Ghanaians would want us to remain the conscience of government, to prompt our brothers and sisters on the other side, that there's the need for us to look at, dot our I's and cross our T's. Fundamental question is that what we are doing? If that is what we are doing, whether or not issues are being raised, very respectfully, should not be consequential as much as the issues that are being raised. That should be our focus. The question is, are the issues we are raising legitimate? That should be our focus. Primarily, if you have observed what is happening, you appreciate the issues that are being raised by the minority. If you look at the standing orders of Parliament, Order 217, it clearly spells out the composition of the Appointments Committee. If you've observed how vetting is done in the House of Parliament, you also discover that in addition to the standing orders, you have a practice which you may want to call a convention that accompanies the standing orders, right? You would observe then that these, if you like, the practice of the standing orders and what I call convention are not at play, because we are interested in cooperating with the majority to ensure that President John Mahama is able to put together a government as soon as reasonably possible to enable him execute his mandate, programs and policies. And so therefore, if you check the standing orders, for instance, you will discover that there was the need, right, for the various sector committees to be in place before the vetting even commences, because members, the leadership of the sector committees would have to be part of the vetting committee, the appointment committee, right? But if you say you are waiting to put them together with the various publications, the duration of the publications, which is between 1 to 2 weeks, then we are looking at a longer period. The president is poised to start work. Why do you want to stand this way with practice and procedure? Parliament is a master of its own rules. Internally, we can agree to do things. Indeed, when you look at the Standing Order 3 of Parliament, it even empowers us to even suspend some of the orders. So nothing stops Parliament from coming together and saying that, look, considering the enthusiasm of the president to hit the ground running, we want to come together, and do something for him. In that spirit, the majority would also have to accommodate us, right, in terms of the conduct of proceedings.
You signaled the minority's readiness to work with the majority. But then let's look at the conduct of your leader, Fayon Markin, before the appointments committee. At some point, he assumed that he was the assistant chairperson because he was a ranking member. He walked out of the committee at some point and then returned. Are you really ready to work with the majority?
To begin with, it will be unfortunate, my sister, to isolate an issue which is even there is a premise to it, and it's not new, and come to a conclusion that on that basis we don't want to work with the minority. Parliament doesn't sit with the majority. Parliament doesn't sit on Mondays. We agreed to sit on Monday. In fact, the appointments committee sitting was supposed to start on Tuesday. They said we should bring it forward to Monday. We decided to sit on Monday and do the work. I've given you various instances. And so therefore, if you say that because of just what you have mentioned, we don't want to work with the majority, it is unfortunate. There is a basis to it. It was resolved. And when it was resolved, we came in to work. Look, this is not the first time an appointments committee is working in this country, is it? It's not. There have been times when the majority when they were in the majority, they even refused to work. If you recall, the vetting of Madame Patricia PJ, it was nasty, to say the least, right? So I think that, at the risk of wanting to sound, at the risk of, saying that tit for tat, which shouldn't be the case, we should look at the totality of events, the things that have happened, and ask ourselves, is the minority being cooperative? The totality of the facts will point to an extremely cooperative minority. In fact, you've heard the former majority leader, Mr. Osei Chairman Sabunsu, even criticizing what is going on, which means that ordinarily it shouldn't happen. But this minority has gone beyond that, right? We've crossed the aisle into where the majority is, and we are working with them. And so we shouldn't single out what happened in terms of the walkout. That I didn't even see that as a walkout. He was just frustrated by the work of the chairman.
Okay, let's look at oral and the minority's position on oral and the work that they are set to do on the ground. You have advised your members to boycott any invite from oral. Why exactly?
Fosti, we need to appreciate one thing. The country called Ghana is a country which is the creation of laws, especially anything that would lead to criminal prosecution. We need to approach it with tact. Indeed, when you look at the constitution of this country, it is not for any reason that the constitution says that, right? When you are arrested by the police, right, you have the right to even remain silent. That is the right not to self-incriminate, the right not to do things that can lead to your conviction, your prosecution or conviction by a court of competent jurisdiction. It is not for nothing. It simply means that in totality, the Constitution is protecting you against things that can potentially, take away your rights and freedoms, because the Constitution cherishes the rights and freedoms of the Ghanaian. And so when a body is set up with a mandate, right, which can potentially lead to criminal prosecution, right, and subsequently conviction and sentencing, we need to make sure that when you put it under the lenses of the law, it meets the standard required by law. The question we need to ask ourselves is oral up there in terms of that standard? First and foremost, the oral was set up by President Mahama even before he was sworn in as president. What mandate was he exercising? Secondly, if you look at the composition of oral, None of them has the expertise of an investigator. None of them.
There's an investigative journalist on the team.
An investigative journalist is not the same as a criminal investigator. We need to distinguish the two. They are distinct. Now, President Mahama, in opposition, said that he was going to work with a special prosecutor. Is the office of the special prosecutor, has it collapsed? It's still there. And so if you think that you want people to gather evidence for any criminal or investigations that you probably want to pursue, why didn't you direct that they go to the office of the special prosecutor? It is there. Besides, you have the Economic and Organized Crime Organization, EOCO, which is also set up by law. You have the Financial Crime Unit, that is the FIC. It is also there. You also have the police. All these institutions have been created by law. Their mandate spelled out by law. The manner by which they carry out their work is also spelled out by law. And so if Yoko invites me today, in going to Yoko, I know what I am up against. If the special prosecutor invites me today, in going to the special prosecutor's office, I know what I am up against. If the oral invites you, or if you go to oral right now, do you know what you are up against? We have seen that before, and it makes us apprehensive. Once upon a time, the NDC's parent, which is the PNDC, had a whole citizens vetting committee. We know what they use that for. They use that to abuse.
The AG has served notice that they hope to reintroduce that tribunal should he assume office. But thank you so much. I have to let you go at this point in time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time, Nana.
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to you holding and living up to the promises you've made to the people of Mencha.
God is my help.
Thank you so much for your time here on News 6. And that's how we wrap up the bulletin, but not so soon. We will be taking this quick breather, bring you business updates, and then we'll be out of the studios.
It's now time for Business on Newsdesk. My name is Winston Taki, and now to our first business story. The CEO of the Association of Ghana Startups, Solomon Ejay, is urging the government to offer tax incentives to support the growth and expansion of indigenous businesses. In an interview with Joy Business, Mr. Ejay emphasized the importance of not only providing funding to startups, but also creating a conducive environment for businesses to thrive.
In 2023, Ghanaian startups secured approximately $65.7 million in funding, marking a significant 69% drop across 34 funding rounds, largely due to the global economic downturn. This decline highlights the challenging environment for SMEs and startups striving for long-term survival. In an interview with Joy Business, CEO of the Association of Ghana Startups, Solomon Ejay, emphasized the urgent need for tax incentives to foster growth and development within the sector.
So we're asking that, can there be a deliberate attempt like proper measures in place? One, tax systems. Young people do business, they're given some tax holidays, tax incentives, right? And when we talk about startups, we're not talking about young people between the age of 35 years and below. I mean, if someone can say that there's already a tax incentive for youth. We're not talking about youth primarily. We're talking about people, you can be 50 years, 30 years, once you start a company, you should be given that support, policy level, tax incentives and all that. And so that's what we are asking for. Not necessarily giving startup a grant of 50,000 or 20,000 cedis. That one, of course, it's been done. But the question is, to what level, what levels are impacting the space? What are they doing with it? I mean, you can hear about government giving money to a number of people, but go ground and ask, how many of them are able to employ and employing others? How many of them? Sometimes managers, like I said, just think in the ocean because it's small money. You know, so but if the conditions is good enough, they can raise their own funds from other as well as businesses and operate, rather necessarily rely on government for this funding, this small grant. So I would rather ask the government that if the government can rather look at the other way around and making sure we get the support we need in terms of this tax holidays, in terms of making sure the investors are in the space supporting people, in terms of support empowering angel investors, venture capital, VCs and other ones. That one may be good enough for us, generating real money to scale.
The Ghana Startup Week themed Fueling SMEs and Startups, Lightening Their Path to Success, convened young entrepreneurs and policymakers to discuss strategies for developing effective policies to strengthen their startup ecosystem.
In other development, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, is calling for a change of all petroleum margins into tax revenues to free up some 6.3 billion cedis for government, according to policy lead in charge of petroleum and conventional energy at ACEP, Kojo Yaoche. This will free up 6.3 billion cedis in annual revenues to fund critical projects. He spoke at the press conference on Ghana's downstream petroleum sector.
We are asking that those margins be converted to tax handles within the control of government, that those revenues accrue to government to be used for development purposes. Because MPA is already paid to do its work. Implicit in the cost of the product, there is money for it to do its work. So we don't want MPA to be in the business of collecting money for transportation, collecting money for this purpose of the product. No, stick to ensuring there is enough product in the country and there is the quality of the product can be guaranteed. That is what MPA should be. Those are its regulatory functions. All other things are just lending itself to the political settlement to be used to siphon money off the pockets of consumers. I mean, these things, the recommendations are really things that they should be focused on. How do we rationalize the margins, for example, to ensure that they become tax handles? Some of the issues that we have raised, the subsidy program, which has become a cash cow for some political people. How do we put an end to it? So the recommendations really are things that the new minister and the CEO of the MPA should be focused on when it comes to downstream petroleum revenues.
That's all for business. For more business update, visit myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Winston Taki. Over to Fosti for the rest of the bulletin. Fosti.
Thank you, Winston, for bringing us business. And that's how we wrap up the bulletin. But I would like you to know that at 12 p.m., you should stick and stay with us here on the Joy News channel because we have updates from Parliament. Now, Boko Central MP Mahama Ayariga has been named the new majority leader. We'll give you all the details at 12 p.m. My name is Faustina Safo. Thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
That was excellent.